I just think it's kind of interesting. I mean, like, for so long, he has been just beloved, maybe overloved, for this idea of loyalty, that he was just the most loyal guy. And when I may overlove, the reason I say that is because I always think it's a little strange when someone gets that much credit just for not demanding to be traded. It's like he's beloved for this, and it's good. He's always really been like, he's the most popular athlete in town, by many magnitudes. Of course, there's only really one sport here. I think that there is a sort of an ongoing detachment from being too emotional about this. Like, it doesn't seem like people are losing their minds. Obviously, as you know, as you move to the West, sports fandom always kind of decreases. Like, it's not like this is happening on the East Coast or even in the Midwest. So people seem to have an understanding that, oh, well, I guess this is going to happen now. I don't think when he comes back, assuming he's traded, I don't think he'll get booed in Portland. Like, I don't think that will happen.
Me neither.
What the thing that is just kind of, just noteworthy to me is that, like, he's gotten all this credit, for being loyal, and somehow it's like nice guys kind of finish last. It looks like he's going to be the first of these major superstars to make a demand and not get exactly what he wants, which, everybody else seems to. It's like everybody else, like Kyrie or whoever you want to mention, it's like, Durant, that these guys, they want things and then it just kind of happens. And it doesn't seem like it's going to happen for him in the way that he intends. I mean, unless the deal with Miami does end up coming through, but it seems odd to me that what the Heat are offering is what Portland would get back for this.
Right. It feels like he's going to end up in Miami. It's just going to take so much longer than everyone expected. And Priscilla and I talked about this on Sunday, whether Portland would just have the balls to say, fuck it, we've traded you for Karl Towns. Here's the number of the Minnesota GM and give him a call. I don't know if they're going to play it that way. It's going to be, it will hang over the whole summer. At some point, he'll do an interview or whatever. And, I talked with Stephen A. little bit about this. It's really interesting from where we came from growing up as sports fans to where we are now, where, the old days where with Sports Illustrated would release the salaries of all the players and people would be like, oh my God, they would have that salary issue. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty anti-player all the way through the 90s and really through the decision. And now it's flipped. And most of the people in my life are like, they should do the right thing. They should trade in Miami. So I wonder if that sentiment is just going to kind of push them toward actually doing that.
I think that sentiment has moved through kind of all of sports. I would say prior to the 94 baseball strike, it was very rare when there would be a labor dispute that the average fan would side with the players. They always sided with ownership. And there was almost this, really in some ways, I guess, unfair belief that, like, players should just be happy to do this. Like, they should just they're living their dream. Of course, the owner's a businessman. He's going to do what a businessman does. But that has kind of changed now. Now it seems as though in any kind of labor dispute, especially like the sports writing community, tends to side with the players. And I sense this with Lillard, that there's this, I heard someone on the radio saying like the Blazers have broken the code by not doing this. Like, the code is that when a superstar asks to be traded after many years, you just have to do it because you owe him that. And I can't really say that that's some kind of terrible concept, but it's weird for sure,
Yeah. And it also probably makes it easier that they have his replacement just kind of in the chamber, ready to be fired, Scoot Henderson, where he's going to leave and they the second wife immediately comes in with like the new marriage. She's younger, little pizzazz to it, and it'll be fun right away. Whereas like we've had other guys get traded and it's pretty bleak. Like when Toronto traded Vince Carter, it was like, all right, what do we do now? Kevin Garnett, Minnesota is like, I hope Al Jefferson's good. The Scoot thing, I think, is going to solve a lot of this. So that's why I feel like they'll probably end up doing the Miami thing. I don't think anyone else is going to step up.
Would you have any interest in seeing both of them on the floor at the same time? Obviously, it's a very small backcourt, but the game is so different now. I can't necessarily say it wouldn't work.
I personally would not be against it. It's ridiculous. You're not going to win a title that way. But if the choice was just bring Dame back and bank on the fact that he loves basketball and throw him out there with Scoot and see what happens.
So plus they got another guy who's a good shooter. That's it's like
Simmons,
who he's really up and down. But when he plays well, when he's shooting well, he's almost like having another Lillard on the floor because his range is so great. And it doesn't seem impossible to me now that you could put two guys who are 6'2" and 6'1", on the floor together and not have it be a disaster. I mean, that seems very possible.
We saw OKC do this where they had that weird Chris Paul season and they had Dennis Schroeder and they had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And they're like, fuck it. And they just played all three of them at the same time. And they were really hard to play. They made the playoffs. Got to a game 7 in round 1. It was unconventional. So, yeah, I do think that's a good point. They don't necessarily have to trade him. And they might look at this and just go, you know what? We're better off waiting until December, January. The interesting part that I don't think I've talked about on my pod is Miami's just on hold with this whole thing where they lost Max Strus. They lost Gabe Vincent. They made the finals last year. They're on a little bit of a time clock with Jimmy because he's 33. And they didn't really add anybody else. And kind of everything's hinging on this Dame thing. And if it doesn't happen, that team might actually suck next year. Like they sucked as a regular season team last year. They barely made the playoffs. They were a play-in team. And now they're going to be worse because they're going to be missing 2 guys. So I don't remember a situation like this before where the other team is on hold, but if for some reason it doesn't happen, it's actually like a disaster for them.